6:30 now, and I want to welcome everybody to hashtag Friday Night Chats with Dr. Karen Love. Hashtag Friday Night Chats is hosted and sponsored by the Love Family Christian Foundation and supported by Judson University. Where's our focus in redefining leadership? We redefine leadership through intellect, cultural competence, and excellence. Some of the questions that we've asked and answered through these series is what can we do differently? How do we create an environment conducive to growth, development, and empowerment? How do we teach our people to dream beyond the immediate circumstance? Foster an atmosphere of excellence in this digital age. What strategies are fully vetted, implemented, and supported by higher level management for attaining high and ethical performance? Tonight, we welcome to the chat room retired, and he takes issue with that, but retired Lieutenant Jerry Lumpkins, MBA. Welcome to the chat room, Jerry.
Appreciate it. Good to be
All
here.
right, how are you doing today?
I think this is my 8th or ninth webinar or Zoom call today, so a little
Oh my
tired.
goodness.
I've got two more after this, so.
You get the prize. You get the prize.
Yeah,
Oh my
yeah.
goodness. Well, tonight
So,
our topic
well,
leadership lessons from public and non-profit real estate and community development. And I'd like to share a little bit about Jerry's background because he amazes me. This man just goes on and on and on. So let me just tell you a little bit about him. Jerry Lumpkins received his degrees in political science and history from Rockford University and an MBA from University of Phoenix, San Diego. After serving as a commissioned officer in the U.S. Marine Corps for over 5 years, Jerry began his commercial banking career in Southern California. Mr. Lumpkins has been in commercial banking for over 25 years and specializes in commercial real estate and affordable housing. Currently, Jerry is the commercial investment real estate division lead in Chicago for a bank, and I'm not going to mispronounce that word. How do you pronounce it,
it's
Jerry?
Bank Lumi USA. Bank
Bank
Lumi.
Lumi USA and solely focuses on commercial investment in real estate transactions. Products include multifamily retail, office, and industrial properties throughout the Midwest. Mr. Lumpkins was recently inducted into the 2020 Midwest Commercial Real Estate Hall of Fame. Now, let me just tell you a little bit about his background. That's the professional side. Now, let me tell you how he serves. You're talking about a servant leader here. Mm. He's president of the Bickerdike Redevelopment Corporation Board, which provides affordable housing to residents in the northwest side of Chicago. He was the former president of Rockwell Community Development and BRC Affiliates Incorporated, advisory board member of the Real Estate Investment Association, chair of the programming committee, president of the board of the Rockford Housing Development Corporation, board member of Neighborhood Housing Services of Chicago Incorporated, chair of the Resource Development Committee, board members of the Rogers Park Builders Group, member of Chicagoland Apartment Association, member of the International Council of Shopping Centers, 2017 past president and current board member of the Chicago Real Estate Council, former chairman of the Rockford Housing Authority, mayor appointment, term expired 6/1/2018, former president of Bridge Rockford Alliance Incorporated, which is the nonprofit development arm of the Housing Authority, former member of Public Housing Authorities Directors Association, former member of the National Association of Housing and Redevelopment Officials. So there is a lot to say about Mr. Lumpkins. He is an exemplary model of servant leadership, what that looks like. He lives it every day. He's also the coolest jazz musician I've ever met in my life. So I just want to give you accolades for that. He is also a jazz and gospel musician and has played in bands and recording studios for over 30 years. He resides in Northwest Chicago, the Belmont Cragen neighborhood, and is married to Flora Lumpkins. Jerry and Flora shared a combined family with 9 children. Does he get the prize? Absolutely. So, Jerry, welcome to the platform. I'm so excited.
It sounds like I got to do some more, right? I mean, I don't have enough to do.
Don't have enough to do. Well, I'm really excited. I've known Jerry for years, but during my dissertation phase, I wanted to interview him because he is so involved with the community and redevelopment. And he introduced me to the Bickerdike Redevelopment Association. And what I was so impressed with was that you had a community that became the stakeholders. They were invested in that community, invested in their real estate, and they put together a program where they were the actual actors and agents of what they have built and developed and transformed in their community. I was so impressed with that, and I love that model today. So, Jerry, I'm not going to talk anymore. I can talk all day about you, but just share your leadership lessons. Just impart some wisdom on us. We're ready.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, I appreciate being here. It's an honor to see you guys and be a part of this illustrious program that you put together. So happy to be here. I mean, look, I'll give you the quick summary of what you just talked about, and then we can talk about some particular issues if you want. But I mean, to the point that you made, I mean, I've you know, grew up in Rockford, Illinois, outside of Chicago, and my family's been in Chicago for over 100 years, and so we migrated up from the South, Mississippi, Georgia, and planted roots south side, west sides of Chicago, and started migrating outwards as jobs became available. And so I grew up in Rockford, Illinois, about 60 miles outside of Chicago. And I'm a PK, so a preacher kid for those who don't know what a PK is. So I was probably 9 years old when my dad entered the ministry, and that was a life, changing event for the entire family because, we liked to party, and we had kind of a secular life prior to my dad's transformation, and it was overnight. I mean, it was like the parties went away, the friends went away, and all the things that secular nature went converted to church. And so, but that listen, I that's where my music career began because my brother and I we realized at a very very early age that we had an affinity, a natural ability for music, and so once I learned to play one song, which was When the Saints Come Marching In, that's all I played for at least the first couple of years. But that got it done in a 2-bedroom, 600 square foot house when the church started. But what those early, church activities and involvement really planted the seeds for community service, giving back to community, right? Majority of our congregants were from public housing, right? They came from, Rockford Housing Authority. They came from Winnebago Housing Authority. They came from low-income neighborhoods, and so that was a majority of our congregants. And we had family as well who stayed in those properties, and so it wasn't like we got the school bus, which we had, and went to pick up congregants, our members. But we also visited family members within these housing developments, and so not knowing again what I was being exposed to at that time, I mean, it was really laying the seeds in terms of what this housing looks like, what kind of conditions folks are living in, the lack of amenities, the lack of things that we just take for granted, air conditioning, running water, clean water, safe, decent hallways, common areas, and this was during the early 80s when gangs were rampant, and they're still rampant today. But I mean, it was quite an eye opener for a 9, 10-year, 11-year-old boy to experience this. And in addition to building out different buildings and converting them into churches, my father also was an investor in single family homes. And so, so we got an opportunity to be a part of that as well, putting up drywall, doing electrical, doing plumbing, pulling up, flooring and all this, again, not even age 12, 13 years old, handling power equipment, tools, again, hating it at the time because it's like we wanted to be hanging out with friends and doing fun things that kids do. But thankful to him and to God that that was exposed to me because, fast forward, all those things that I was exposed to, I use today. I use today, whether it be, chairing, housing authorities, affordable housing organization to provide affordable housing, safe, decent, affordable housing. I always think back to those days where, when I was a kid and I saw, families living in very deficient situations. And so, and, the thing with real estate, um, that's one of the things that is kind of a legacy builder, if you will, for generational wealth. And, you mentioned earlier, I spent 5 years in the Marine Corps, traveled all over the world. My last duty station was out in Camp Pendleton, California. When I went in, I thought I was going to make that a career, but it was not as advertised. And so, I left the service right around the time, right, the O.J. Simpson case, and the tensions and the racial tensions in this country were just incredibly high, just like they are today. But it was accentuated in the service itself, the Marine Corps itself, and just wasn't an environment that I signed up for. So I got out thinking, what am I going to do? I mean, I studied pre-law in college. Maybe I teach. And so I got a license in insurance and securities, and I started selling mutual funds and life insurance with Prudential for about a year, making 100 cold calls a day and pounding, phones and, hunting, going in people's homes and consulting with them in the middle of the night. And at some point, I'm like, I don't think I went through all the training that I went through in education to make 100 calls. I could have done this in high school. I kept saying to myself. And so I was very used to cold calling, and I actually cold called on a bank at 4 o'clock in the afternoon in downtown San Diego. It was a dual purpose visit. It was a cold call to see what kind of assistance I could help with, but also to see if there was any career opportunities. And I went in and actually it was 4 o'clock in the afternoon on a Friday, and God allowed that the head of HR was there, and she just took me as a walk-in, and we talked for a couple of hours, and she said, we're looking for people just like you, educated, Marine Corps or service, military training, to go into our credit training program. We don't need to tell you how to sell. I mean, obviously you know how to sell, but we need to teach you about banking. First time ever in my life thinking about a banking career. And I could tell you, most of my colleagues who go through or been in banking for many decades, we never thought we would be bankers. We didn't grow up being bankers unless your dad or your mom or someone that in the family was exposing you to that lifestyle. That's just something you kind of fall into. And so for me, it was like, yeah, I'll do this until I figure out what I want to do when I grow up, right? And so you blink an eye, and 25 years later it's go by, and you go, wait a minute, how did that happen? But I got to tell you, Karen, it's I've never been unemployed, thank God. I'm not going to. Number two, it's allowed me to travel all over the country, all over the world, similar to the Marine Corps. But it also allowed me to, be exposed to worlds that I never, ever would have seen or ever saw when I was growing up. And, I was seeing financial statements of wealthy folks, and I kept looking at them. I'm like, what's the secret to their success? How is it that they're able to be successful? One of the things I immediately realized is that majority of people that I was looking at, they made their success in real estate. And so their financial statements consisted of a lot of investment real estate. And so very, very early on, I had the foresight to say, hey, you know what? Let me refocus my energies in that field. Not only that, I love it. I mean, I love real estate. I've financed everything that you can think about: manufacturing companies, service companies, retail, everything that you can imagine. But the thing that I get up and very excited about every day, even to this day, is brick and mortars, real estate, building out communities, building new housing, building new developments. And so, so once I realized that, and just had a natural gift for it. One, you have to have the energy for it, but two, to have the natural gift, whether it be the analytical piece of it. But building communities and buildings is more than the spreadsheets and the projections and performance. It's a lot of intuition. It's a lot of community engagement. It's a lot of balancing the community's needs, the city's needs, the village's needs, whoever you're dealing with. And so I've found like that to be like my natural niche. And I probably would say maybe 10, 12 years ago, I pivoted a little bit, still maintaining and retaining my positions in commercial banking, real estate, but finding opportunities on boards of community development organizations, the ones that you mentioned, most recently, Bickerdike Redevelopment Corporation. I've been on that board for about 7 or 8 years now, and have the pleasure of leading it as board's president for the past 2 years. The Rockford Housing Authority, which is I was tapped on the shoulder by the mayor to offer my expertise in real estate as well as my familiarity with the west sides and south sides of Rockford to provide expertise and guidance. And so that turned into a 7-year kind of term, tour of duty, if you will. And most recently, Rockford Housing Development Corporation. We recently sold a 270-unit apartment building and had a pretty significant liquidity event. So now we're looking to partner with community partners, whether it be Habitat for Humanity, whether it be other housing authorities or housing providers, to do things jointly versus individually. That's one of the things that not just Rockford, but many communities that I've looked at over the country, don't have the ability to coordinate or to collaborate. Right? They want to do everything on an individual, standalone basis. And I mean, it's a basic theory, right? We're stronger together than we are alone. But there's territories, there's fiefdoms, there's this is my space, or this is my block, or this is my neighborhood, and stay out, and so you got to fight through things like that. But I got to tell you, the last 10, 12 years that I've spent on boards and leading affordable housing organizations have taught me more than my 25 years in corporate America. And that's a big statement, but it's true, just because in corporate America, you're kind of siloed, right? You're in your particular vertical, you're in your particular department. Whereas with the organizations that I've been a part of, I get to see things from start to finish, right? From a whiteboard kind of concept to, okay, how do we bring the resources together to manifest this? And then walking through the entire process of getting a plan, putting projections together, working with the city, working with the community, getting contractors, all the things that are required to make a project successful. So, I've been fortunate again to be banking 25 years. I've got 10 bank shirts in my closet as a result of various mergers and acquisitions, name changes. This will be my last bank stop. So, I think my bon voyage will be perhaps leading a housing or economic development corporation to kind of fulfill the career, if you will. That was a lot, and I hope that in some way.
Yeah, no, I was really interested in it because I wanted to see how you came full circle, and you started with being a PK, and so you did go through that training at a very early age. You hear that, Michael? See that training that we put you through? It pays off, doesn't it?
Hey, he's Exhibit B, right? I
Yes,
mean,
yes.
he's another example of being a PK, how
Yes.
successful that can make you.
That's the only way we know how to express our love, right? Military training. Full throttle. But I'm really excited for you, Jerry, and even you modeling that servant leadership component, because I see that threaded throughout your career, and the fact that you want to go and work on economic development, that's all a part of it. But I want to ask you, with the Bickerdike Corporation and the
Mhm,
Rockford Housing Authority,
mhm.
do you see similarities among the two? Because I saw that the stakeholders were really invested
Yeah,
in what they were doing. And there was that sense of empowerment and community proudness, everything that was just, you want to be a part of. So when you stepped into that area and you stepped into the atmosphere, immediately I felt like I want to be a part of this.
yeah,
This is big. This is
yeah,
big. It's purposeful.
yeah.
So
I
can you see
mean, the
the
short
similarities of
answer,
the two?
I'm sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, do you see the similarities between the two?
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. The short answer is absolutely. I mean, that's one of the main reasons why I transitioned from the Rockford Housing Authority to Bickerdike, because there were a lot of similarities, and primarily the basis, the theme is to provide affordable, safe, and clean housing, right? And so those two threads run neck and neck in terms of those two organizations. The sizes of the organizations are a little different. I mean, I think Bickerdike, and I could be a little wrong on these numbers, but I think they're about 1,300 plus or minus units among 14 or 15 buildings. Probably, net worth of about $75 million plus or minus. Rockford Housing Authority has 2,000 units plus housing units plus 300 scattered site units. Those are residential properties throughout the community. Um, the primary difference is one is regulated by HUD, Housing Urban Development, and that would be the Housing Authority, Rockford Housing Authority. So there's a ton of restrictions on what you can do, how you can finance deals, who you can collaborate with. Uh, you have to set up separate nonprofit entities in order to, borrow money, because the housing authority itself cannot lien or lever its assets, and so and you're constantly under the thumb of HUD, Housing Urban Development. So it's you're always wondering, how am I going to get fired, or how are we going to be in trouble, because there's so many regulations to adhere to, and also the timing of funding and the timing of approval with the Rockford Housing Authority. Give you an example. A deal can start, from concept and literally take a 10-year cycle before it comes out of the ground. And so you think about that and you go, well, my projections 10 years ago in terms of the cost bases are a heck of a lot larger than they are now, right? And so the goalpost keeps moving in terms of the actual cost to build something out. Financing is incredibly complex to get. I mean, there's 10, 12 different layers of financing, whether it be traditional debt, whether it be TIF financing, tax increment financing. It might be some LIHTC financing that's involved. It could be grants. It could be city funds. It just we call it lasagna financing, because the layers are so complicated, and you got to get them all aligned in order to close. It all has to be aligned. And so you imagine you got 10 different funding sources that you're trying to align to get to a closing. I just think that, I close, that's what I do every day. I close loans, right? I close one loan, right? And the logistics of doing that is it's there's a lot, right? So you can imagine trying to align 10 different financing sources on one closing day. So there, and then of course you're always subject to funding cuts with HUD, right? And it's taxpayer money. You might be funded at 85% of what you were funded the prior year, depending on if there's a conservative Republican administration in place, or if there's a Democratic administration in place. Democrats tend to be a little more favorable to public housing than the Republicans. So, the priorities get adjusted every time you have an administration change. And but these buildings still have needs. These buildings still need to be taken care of. They need to be upkept, right? You still have to replace boilers and roofs and mechanicals, and you can't do that sufficiently if you don't have the resources there that were intended to make those types of those maintenance, just general maintenance. I'm not talking like making stuff new. I'm just talking about just keeping lights on, keeping electricals functioning, right? The difference with Bickerdike, it's a private nonprofit, and so it doesn't have HUD restrictions, and so there's a lot of flexibility. There's a lot of ability to self-source financing. Select banks, select funding partners that you want to do deals with, and you can get creative, right? And so I felt kind of a bit of liberation when I was able to transfer from the Rockford Housing Authority to Bickerdike, because I was accomplishing the same goal, which is providing affordable housing, right? But with not all the complications that comes with a housing authority. And so, again, the concept again is the same: to build neighborhoods, to provide affordable housing, particularly to neighborhoods that are gentrifying, right? And Bickerdike specifically, we service the northwest side of Chicago. So we're talking Avondale, Logan Square, Humboldt Park, Westtown, those types of communities. Those are very hot communities now for market rate developers, right? It's close to downtown. In many cases, you're on the blue line or you're close to public transportation. There's already infrastructure in place in terms of restaurants and retail and things like that. So it's not uncommon where a private developer will come in and buy an apartment that may have some market rate, maybe have some affordable rate apartments, rents in place, or folks' families been living there for years, right? And they know the owner, and there's never been really any rent bumps, right? So they've been able to kind of maybe pay $1,000 for a 2 or 3 bedroom. I'll say a 2 bedroom, not 3, but for $1,000. But what I'm saying is, it's so when a new owner comes in and buys that building, they immediately want to empty the building out, gut rehab it, make it condo quality, turn that same unit into a 2 or 3 bedroom, maybe collapse some units to expand the sizes, and then will charge you $3,000 for that same location, $3,500, right? People on fixed incomes, retirees, or folks that are below the average median income levels, that they can't afford a $3,000 rent payment, right? And so the charge that we have at Bickerdike is to preserve affordable housing, preserve buildings, to allow particularly folks who have grown up there. This is their grandparents' place or where they grew up, right? And now they're seeing all the new swanky stores come in, they're nice restaurants, and they can't necessarily be a part of that because they're getting priced out. That's from a rent standpoint. If you're a homeowner, and you've owned a home there for generations, the home was passed down to you from your mom or dad, or maybe your grandparents, and you're paying, call it, I'm just using a number, $2,500 a year in property taxes, right? And that's kind of where your property tax level kind of stays or has been. Well, when these new buildings come in and when property values increase in these neighborhoods as a result of this new development, now your tax bill goes from $2,500 up to $10,000, right? And so again, if you're a retiree on a fixed income, you've just literally got priced out of your own home, right? And so so there's and you can't stop progress. No one's saying to prevent development. I'm pro development, but I'm also about balanced development. I'm about allowing those that are in the neighborhoods that they grew up in to be able to enjoy the the amenities and the improvements that are made in their communities that they grew up in. Humboldt Park is a great example. 10 years ago, Humboldt Park, that was scary, right? Gang ridden and I had some lenders that I'd bring deals to. They're like, "No, Jerry, we're good. We don't want to go there." That's one of the hottest markets now in Chicago, right? And so again, if you're a homeowner there or if you're a renter there, Certainly on the rent side, Bickerdike wants to be able to allow you to have affordable home to stay in the neighborhood. And so, and the last thing I'll say in terms of, those are the similarities there. About 3 years ago now, we talk about full circle. About 3 years ago, I joined the board of the Chicago housing services, and so we there we provide tools and a path to home ownership, right? And so that's the thing that that I'm most proud of is that at this point in my life and at this point in my career, I've had the benefit of seeing, let me take it back. We established a motto at the Rockford Housing Authority, which was move in, move up, and then move out, right? Because it became generational. I mean, you had 4 or 5 generations of people living in public housing. That's not what it was ever designed to do, right? You don't own it. I mean, they don't. I mean, you don't. It's not like you can pass that on as a wealth asset to your ancestors to your kids or anyone, right? And so your family. So you know with Bickerdike, with Rockford Housing Authorities, those are providing in my mind temporary places to stay, right? Affordable housing for you to stay and to equip yourself if you're able-bodied. Now, I understand if you're retired or if you're disabled or if you're a child, right? And then and you're in poverty. I mean, there's things that things that are a little out of control, but for able-bodied people that are trainable, that can get a skill set, whether it be a trade or go back to college and learn a skill that they can immediately employ. We strongly encourage, that's why I strongly encourage the Housing Authority to make yourself self-sufficient, because it's like, and what is that time frame? I mean, it's a little arbitrary, but I kind of look at it 5 years, right?
5 years. Okay.
5 years to adopt a program, to learn a trade, get a degree, right? So to put yourself in a position to be self-sufficient. And during that process also is to provide you the tools to become a homeowner. Because, and I was just talking with a colleague the other day, particularly in high school, I don't think they teach kids how to do tax returns. I don't think they teach kids how to balance a checkbook. I don't think they teach kids how to be financially savvy, right? To learn basic financial building blocks to be successful. I mean, I listen to my kids and they're taking calculus, advanced calculus and all the amazing things that I took when I was in college. But I can tell you this, and even high school, I can tell you this, I don't use calculus today. I think it did nothing but allow you to learn how to learn, right? To think critically. But when I was in high school, I took what they call home economics, where they taught us how to do a tax return. They taught us about basic banking, like how to open a checking account, how to balance a checkbook, even like an automotive class. I mean, I took automotive when I was in high school. I still work on my cars today. My wife's on here right now, and she tell you right now, I do a ton of work on my own cars if and when I have to, right? Even today. And so just basic things that can allow you to be self-sufficient, be employable, and allow yourself to take care of your family. And so with NHS, I'm sorry, Neighborhood Housing Services of Chicago, that's to me like the ultimate last step, where we take you from a housing authority situation or affordable housing situation, and we train you financially, get you literate, how to repair your credit score, right? How to put together a down payment, walk you through the process of an application to fill out a home loan application, and then put you in a position to become a homeowner. And so we've got those types of tools. at NHS Chicago, where we provide funding, we provide the tools internally to train our members, our residents to again to become self-sufficient. And so, the last thing I'll say is that I've got, as you've indicated in the opener, my wife and I, we've got a combined family of 9 kids, right? So, and I've got 4 that turn 18, 3 turn 18 this in a couple of weeks, 1 turned 18 last month. So they're off to college this fall, and then we've got a 3-year-old at home, and so everything in between in terms of the age ranges. But my goal as a dad is, and I tell this to my kids all the time, I'm not your friend. I'm here. I'm your dad, number one, but 2, I'm here to make sure that you're self-sufficient, so that when you leave my house, you know how to take care of yourself, right? And so, and some folks say, "Oh, it's hard. You're being tough." Well, perhaps, but I know that it benefited me, and so I'm passing along what I know will benefit, not only my kids but the residents that we serve. So.
Well, just a similar story for Michael when his friends were looking at different colleges, and Michael at that point wasn't really interested in career. He decided he wanted to, make a CD, rap CD, get away from his crazy Christian parents, that type of thing. So, so we had to come to an agreement that, okay, if you want to do this, you have to learn everything about the music industry. You have to own the process, absolutely, to qualify for the Love Scholarship. And so
Right.
he's done quite well. But I just want to ask you in terms of self-sufficiency. I had a young lady who developed her thesis this last semester, and she wanted to talk about the wealth disparity, generation disparity. And so she was so emotional about it. And I said, let's find the evidence-based research. Let's do the stats. And I used Bickerdike as an example because I wanted her to see the model of self-sufficiency. So instead of wasting all that emotion on, being angry and saying this is racism and stuff, let's develop a thesis so that it can be replicated, right? So this is what's going on. And so I also had her to look at Greenwood because that's where all the wealth building was. That's where it came from with African Americans and to be self-sufficient. And so how do we move back into wealth building again with this generation, the younger generation, because it's so easy to say it's somebody else's fault instead of taking responsibility of the choices that we make. That's one thing. But the other thing too is that I love what you said about schools and technical skills too, because we're learning all the advanced subjects. But what about the things that will make us better citizens, better bankers, how to be good stewards, right, with our money and our resources? Because you can have all the knowledge in these other areas as well, but if you don't know how to live, and take care of yourself, then it's for naught. It is for naught. So I love the fact that you talk about self-sufficiency and self-sufficiency within the Black community. That message right there, we have to keep saying that over and over again, because generationally, I think there are kids that are so angry, but they don't know why they're angry. I mean, kids that are living in beautiful homes and angry, they don't know why they're angry. It's like,
Yeah.
listen, let's
Yeah.
focus on developing yourself personally. I mean, even that social economic aspect of it, you banking and learning about. I have my kids building business models, and because I want them to learn how to sustain their quality of living. I mean, who could sustain how they live right now? So you have 4 going into college. And so
Mm,
how are they going to sustain what they're used to
mm,
after they move out of the Lumpkins household? So you
yeah.
provided them with those skills. And I love the application that you've used. I mean, it's threaded throughout your messaging. So thank you
Yeah.
for that.
There's a lot to unpack with what you just said there. I'll touch on a couple of items. Number one is the economic disparity that you talked about, and and folks being angry and not really understanding why they're angry. The social unrest that we saw last summer after George Floyd, that's always been here, right? You can go to Emmett Till, you can go to MLK, you can go to a variety of different touch points, Jim Crow, Reconstruction. slavery before that. I mean, there's 400 years of advantage that the majority of the population has um, um, in terms of versus people of color, African Americans particularly. And so, you know, the average, and I could have these stats off a little bit, but the average net worth of a white family is probably $150,000 plus or minus, assuming you're taking account of all their assets and liabilities. It's less than 10,000 for African American families, right? And why is that? Well, a lot of times they don't own their own properties, right? Which is your largest asset, right? And sometimes, well, not sometimes, all the times, um, the majority population, they've inherited the property, right? They've gotten it from their parents or they've gotten it from their grandparents. It might be free and clear, right? So the equity in that property immediately gives them $200,000-300,000 of just net worth that they did nothing for, right? And so that's the thing that I'm constantly talking about in terms of generational wealth, being able to transfer that, and you can't do it if you don't start, right?
Yes.
Um, I think about my grandparents and they were on the verge of losing their home, and they were in foreclosure, and they were ashamed to tell me about it until they got right almost to a sheriff's sale, and I stepped in to pull it out of the foreclosure process. But as I dug in, all these years I thought that they owned their home, right? But it was a contract for deed, arrangement. And so for those who don't know what that is, it's like you're paying a private owner who actually owns the property. He or she might be charging you 20-25% interest. So the majority of your payments going to interest, right? And at some point, when you accumulate enough quote unquote payments, then that payment could eventually turn into a down payment where they can eventually refinance it or buy the home themselves. Well, but if you miss a payment, well, then default interest kicks in, and then anything that you had built in gets forfeited to make you whole on what's past due, and you just never get out. You never get out, and then you find out that I've been paying this house for 20-25 years, and I don't own it, right? I've seen that in so many instances on South Side, West Sides of Chicago, West Side, South Side of Rockford, and so it's like a design trap to just keep people without the ability to advance economically, right? The biggest purchase that most people will do in their lives is a home, right? And it's one of the things that the best things that you can leave for your children is a home, as a piece of property. And so so I take a stance against that and try to fight in any way I can to reverse that ugly design system that still exists today. I mean, let's just be real. I mean, we just recently had a study just because of all the economic disparity and the wealth gap that was done recently. And for every $100 of money that is lent from major corporation, major banks, J.P. Morgan Chase, Wells Fargo, U.S. Bank. I'm not throwing anyone under the bus here. I'm putting it out the data. Less than $1 goes into African American communities, right? And so, say 50-60% of that goes to Lincoln Park, goes to Wicked Park, goes to, Ravenswood. What do they need the investment for? I mean, when you have disinvestment that's taking place in disadvantaged neighborhoods, and so, one of the things that I do on the market rate side is that, and I don't care that the folks internally sometimes call me the South Side or West Side lender. I'm okay with that because there's tons of times where my fair skinned colleagues, will not go south of Roosevelt Road to lend, right? And so for me, it's a badge of honor to do that. One, because that's where my family's from and still lives. I'll do a deal in Inglewood. I did a $12 million deal in Inglewood. Everyone looked at me like I had three heads. guess what? It's like one of the best performing assets that they're blowing through their projections. They're full. They're like, and so I had senior management at my prior place questioning me. Jerry, do we want to go here? I saw the headlines. There was a shooting there last night. Jerry, do we? You know what? If the deal works, the numbers work, and we've got a good sponsor, we've got a good developer, then nothing else matters. It's a deal that we should pursue. Yeah, we need to take into account the market risks that could potentially impact property values or impact safety, of course, right? But you should not also discount or not do a deal because you don't like the neighborhood or you saw something bad about the neighborhood. So it's just and there's I mean, I can tell you, George Floyd was like an angel sent here by God. God rest his soul. And this trial that's going through right now, it just highlights all the agony that he went through. But without that travesty, we wouldn't be having the kinds of conversations that we're having today. The demonstrations, the legislation, the resources, the energy that companies and major corporations are putting behind social equity, putting behind investing in disadvantaged companies, putting into hiring practices, putting into who's on our board, right? It should just be your country club buddies that you look around the table and that's what's at the board table. No, you need to go outside of your comfort zone, find someone who doesn't look like you, doesn't have your same religion, doesn't have your same language maybe, right? And encourage them to be a part of the board. And so what we all saw this past summer was it wasn't just the Black Lives Matter movement that was protesting. It was a rainbow coalition. It was a worldwide, it is a worldwide, a protest uprising to say, hey, enough, right? A man should not lose his life just because he's Black. A person should not be able to not live in a neighborhood because of their race or their religion, right? And so, there was maybe another position on that list that you listed out that didn't make it, but I lead an effort here with Bank Lumi for social equity, right? And we're identifying vendors, companies, organizations that are either providing financing to low-income neighborhoods, who are providing resources for financial literacy, providing grants to HBCUs, scholarships to HBCUs, recruiting from HBCUs to become part of the management training programs that I had the benefit to go through and be able to successfully lead a 25-year career. Again, that wouldn't have happened if someone just didn't take a leap of faith and say, hey, you know what, Jerry, we know you don't have any experience in this, but we're gonna bring you on and we're gonna train you, right? I say, and I think that, and I'm hopeful and I'm prayerful that the resources and the energy that corporations are displaying is sustainable. It's not just flavor of the month. It's not okay, let's move on to some other initiative. I really think it's sustainable, and so I take a lot of comfort in being a part of that at my bank. We're not trying to recreate the wheel. We're not trying to recreate organizations internally to do all the things that I outlined. It's like, why do that? Go find a 501c3 or find a community development corporation who's already doing that, and we can partner with them and we can scale them, right? And so we're leading that effort right now. I'm helping to lead that effort, and again, it's about bringing focus to neighborhoods that are disenfranchised and don't have a lot of investment, and trying to turn that corner. The last thing I'll say is that with the Rockford Housing Development Corporation, and we're doing this in conjunction with the Law Foundation. Hopefully, we'll get this moving in the right direction. Is again back to that self-sufficiency platform, that statement where we got a 20,000 square foot building on the west side of Rockford that is an old school, church building that's been abandoned for probably 10, 15 years now. It's 3 floors, needs a lot of, not a TLC, and we can put resources together to do that. Thankfully, given, what's recently happened with RHTC, Rockford Housing Development Corporation. But the mission there is to provide like a training facility for folks to get everything that I just outlined, financial literacy, link up with some of the trade unions to be able to, teach carpentry, electrical, plumbing, to be able to partner with some of the, colleges, universities that would want a presence on the west side of Rockford because everything tends to be east of the river, right? And so, we're very excited about that. Again, the primary goal mission there is to provide a training ground, a training facility for an area that is starved for investment, but has folks that are trainable, and the willingness has to be there, obviously. And I think, I'm always mindful that I'm not where I am today when I was younger, right? So, and so when I go out on sites and I'm walking around with the owner, if I go to when I used to finance manufacturing companies, I'd be walking around with the CEO, and I'd see the workers that were people of color, and they're looking at me, right? And they're like, "Oh my God, he looks like me," or he's over there talking to the man, or he's over there talking with the owner of the company, right? And the owner of the company is like paying attention to him, right? I'm mindful of that, right? I understand I have a responsibility that that it's just not me, that I have to be my brother's keeper and to provide kind of, I got over the wall. Okay, let me lean over and put a hand over to help you come over, right? So there's a lot of that to what I do. It subconsciously drives me. I don't wake up thinking about it, but certainly when I'm at sites and when I see tradesmen and I see folks that are they need that next paycheck to put food on the table.
Yes.
I think that this center that we put together, with our involvement, with us being visible, will be an encouragement for those that they're like, hey, Jerry grew up on this side of town. His dad's church has been there for 40 plus years, right around the corner. Perhaps I can do maybe some of what he's done. I talk to a lot of kids, and I talk to a lot of colleges and seminars and things like that. You guys have to, be mindful. My kids are they're down here now, so in Zoom calls, this is just part of the process now. So, but the thing that that I'm mindful of is that again, I didn't grow up in this environment, that I'm currently in. And that I have to, again, provide the example and just lend a helping hand for those to hopefully, do better than what they've done. Last thing I'll say is, again, I talk to a lot of young people, again, a lot of panels, go to college, universities and things like that to talk about real estate, to talk about economic development, talk about, what I do. And sometimes I get the question, hey, I want to do what you do, Jerry. I want to, how can I be you, or how can I do what you do? And I was particularly young. I would say that's the wrong question. That's the wrong question to ask. I said the right question is to ask is, what would you do if you weren't paid to do it? And if you find the answer to that question, then you'll never work a dull day in your life. And I'm blessed to, when I wake up, put in 10, 12-hour days, probably longer than that, my wife will tell you. It's not work. It's not work. It's passion. And so it's very similar to my music, right? It's not work. It's passion. And so I'm just blessed that I was able to kind of marry those two, those my music and my economic development, real estate, and it just balances me. But it's never working. And I think, and I'm hopeful that as we put people, kids, young folks, young people through these training facilities, that it will awaken whatever it is that their passion is to do what they want to do, so they're not feeling like they're getting up to go work a 9 to 5.
Jerry, I'm going to give the audience time to ask you questions. I know that they are waiting with bated breath to ask you questions, so
No worries.
let's just take a few minutes.
Don't be
Hey, how's
shy.
it going?
Hi, Sienna.
How are you guys?
I'm doing well, Sienna. How are you?
Good, thank you. First and foremost, I want to commend you guys. 9 kids, 3 18-year-olds. I thought I was doing something with 5 kids. Okay, 9 kids. That's just crazy.
There's an element of craziness to it for sure.
I can't even keep up what I said yesterday, let alone the 9 different individuals. But yeah, that's super awesome. What I wanted to say is I'm also in the real estate business, more so in the property management side. And what I found is that a lot of our apartments are, like you said, are just exceeding what the market needs right now. So a lot of people cannot afford it. And for me, looking at that and wanting to say, okay, what could I do to provide housing for people? And I actually thought about starting a real estate business to where I'm like building houses, flipping houses, and making it more affordable for single moms or, single dads or whatever the case may be. But what would you say would be the starting point to do that?
Yeah, I mean, it certainly helps that you work in the industry, right? So you have some idea about what it takes to run a property, right? And it sounds like you're in management or leasing.
Management.
Okay, so so you got some sense of how a property breathes and what the requirements to keep it going, and perhaps maybe what it takes to keep it filled, right? To get folks to stay in it. So having that industry background is huge. One of the biggest things that will prevent anyone from moving forward is that they don't have the experience, right? And so you go to a funder, an equity provider, the first thing they're going to want to see is, well, let me see what deals have you done? What have you done, right? If it's nothing, right, then it's a quick conversation, right? It's like, well, come talk to me when you've got a few deals on your belt. And so what I found a lot of folks doing, they work at a real estate company, they're in real estate banking, they start buying single family homes, whether in your case you talk about flipping, that gives you some element of what it takes to buy something that's that requires maintenance, requires probably a lot of maintenance in order to get it resealed and be able to release it or to sell it. So that's very, very helpful. Read everything that you can get your hands on regarding real estate. I mean, I've got shelves and shelves of books and manuals and programs and training materials that I went through very early on in my career. And I still do today. I mean, I'm never done learning. I mean, you're never done learning. I've done $5 billion worth of transactions in my 20 plus years, right? So I kind of know what I'm doing a little bit, but
A little bit.
but it's all about the experience. And many times, it may just involve JVing or partnering with someone who's doing what it is that you want to do, right? So that you can get some deals under your belt, that you can actually see a deal kind of go from, start to finish, from acquisition to a rehab to a sale or flip, to a lease, whatever it is that your play might be, to get those rotations. I mean, that's the biggest key, the rotations. And again, I can't stress enough. I mean, there's so many online programs that teach you how to either rehab, teach you how to put a budget together, teach you how to do projections, teach you how to look at financials and how to put a pro forma together or put a pitch book together for an investor or a bank to look at. because that's the first thing they want to see. Okay, I mean, you want to build an 8-unit and Inglewood. Okay, great. All right. Well, let's see your book. Let's see your package. All right. Let me see your pro forma. Let me see your business plan. All right. Where's your equity coming from? Because they're not going to finance 100% of it, right? So you have to come up with 30, maybe 35% of the initial cost to do that deal. And another thing too is in many cases, like your first couple of deals, they're not going to be done with traditional banks or traditional financing sources. They're going to be done with hard money. They're going to be done with friends and family. They're going to be done with, angel investors that are going to take a leap of faith with you that you can actually give them their money back with maybe some return, right? And so and the last thing I would say is just to get involved in the industry via conferences, via organizations. And I'm a part of a number of them. I'd be happy. Are you here in Chicago? Where are you located?
I'm in Palatine, actually.
Okay, Palatine. So
born and raised in Inglewood, by the way.
Okay, there you go. Inglewood in the hood right here. Yeah. No, I'm happy to provide you a variety of contacts, organizations that I'm a part of that just gives you that kind of ambiance, that just impact of knowledge, that impact of experience. Is you just learn a lot just by listening about deals getting done, right? You learn. And these panels, when people get on panels, I do panels all the time. I mean, people love talking about their deals. They love telling you how they got them done, right? I mean, they probably won't tell you over the phone, but it's amazing what they'll tell you when they're on a panel. They'll just pretty much lay out exactly how they got it done because they're kind of showboating a little bit, right? They got an audience, right? And so that's okay. That's why we want them there, because we want to learn how they did what they did. So I hope that answered your question. But
no, it did. Thank you. Okay. And then I actually have a second question.
Yeah.
You talked about the training program for the young kids. Where is that actually?
So it's not in place yet. It'll be in Rockford. It'll be in Rockford, the west side of Rockford. And so there's a lot of blocking and tackling that still needs to be in place. Fortunately, the building exists. Fortunately, the players exist. It may require some additional funding partners to bring it to fruition. But given the players that are at the table, that's a very, very valuable outcome that can get executed. And so I would say if I were to, project this out, I mean, this is something that can be done literally within the next 12 months. I mean, here's the thing: whenever I get on boards or I get in a part of organizations, I don't like to just theorize. I don't like to just put case studies together or a market study together and then put it on the shelf and we just kind of hypothesize about what potentially we want to do. I'm a doer, and so that might offend some people sometimes. That might make people uncomfortable. I think that's probably a better term, because folks that are complacent and used to just kind of methodically going through the process. Maybe we'll get to it. It sounds nice, and then 5 years go by and nothing's happened. I'm not that guy. So when I say 12 months for that project, that's a very, very viable timeline.
Have you started the marketing on that yet?
No, I mean we don't want to get the cart before the horse. I mean we gotta get the proper. It's currently owned by an entity that we got to purchase it from. There's some things that we got to do with the city regarding parking, and then we've got to also finalize kind of the funding partners for the build out, the renovation. But I tell you, this is one of those things where I won't say it's as simple as build it and they will come, but people do like seeing a final product. They like seeing a finished product that they can walk into and say, "Oh my God, I can operate in this space." Right? You don't have a lot of visionaries. They walk into a place and they see ceiling tiles, they see busted pipes, they see cracked, tiling, they see foundation, and it scares the crap out of them. They're like, "Yeah, no, I don't." Where we'd rather have a white box kind of environment where it's the mechanicals are done, the roofing is done, everything that makes the property operate efficiently is in place. Smart buildings, Wi-Fi, that kind of stuff. So once that's in place, but I'll just say this, there's a couple guys on this phone that that are fully aware of potential partners and tenants that will be occupying that property that can do everything that we've just been talking about.
Well, I was just wondering how it was received by the community, if people were getting excited just to have something to give them a little bit of hope and create a legacy for their family. And I know it's important.
Yeah, it's coming from the community, my family's still in West End Rockford. How could you not want this?
Mm-hmm.
Right? How could you not be supportive of something that's going to add value to the community and add value to the residents? I mean, it's one of those things where you take a leap of faith that it's going to be fine, because the outcome is what? I mean, you got an empty 20,000 square foot building. It's not doing anything. It's not on the tax rolls in terms of doing anything productive, and you have a community that's still starved for training. It's like, I think the community would be receptive.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be great. Thank you so much for bringing it out. Sorry for taking it.
No worries.
No, that's okay. It's 7:36, so I want to give others an opportunity to ask questions as well, because Jerry might start charging me at some point. So if you have questions, let's get the questions.
I do have a hard stop in about 15 minutes. So
Okay. All right. Questions? Well, no, I don't see anyone asking questions here. No. Okay. Jerry, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. All right. I have Facebook behind me, so it's like I'm hearing two different voices, but I just want to thank you. Oh my goodness, because there are so many other questions I wanted to ask you in terms of economic development. And as you were talking about even economic equity and social equity, I was thinking about this economist, Gary Becker, who developed these models that attach psychic costs for everything you did in society, whether it's hiring African Americans or females. I mean, there was a psychic cost attached, and some of the corporations in Chicago were actually using that model until they outlawed it. And so I'm so glad you walked through this process with us to say that, there's opportunity out there for you. You have to become self-efficient. You have to make sure you put the time in to develop your technical skills, but also know where you've come from and your relationship with God and your purpose in terms of building and bringing others forward. So I really appreciate your time this evening.
Yeah, that's the thing that I'm glad you brought that up. I mean, that's the underlying theme of this all, right? I mean, it's God-based. I always say that we're doing God's work when we're providing the housing, and that's my ministry. I mean, folks always look at me as like, you'll succeed your dad as the next pastor of Mount Sinai Baptist Church. He's retired, by the way, and that calling hasn't come yet. But I always say that the calling that I'm currently doing is providing affordable housing, as well as the music ministry, and so. I continue to serve in that way, and I don't go to town halls or do interviews with the newspapers or the televisions and say I'm doing God's work, because they'll probably shut me down. But I mean, I do during board meetings or during a conference. I mean, that's exactly what it is that we're doing. We're doing, because you're not going to get rich doing it. So just understand that. But enrichment comes more than just financial compensation. Now, look, I'm not doing anything for free, but it's the enrichment that you get by seeing a new brand new home with appliances, a doorbell. You know what? Again, small things. Yes. But I remember seeing an 8-year-old girl go to her new home, ring the doorbell. She'd never heard a doorbell in her life.
Oh my goodness.
Because everyone's just banging on the door, right?
Yes. Yes. That's incredible.
Going inside, there's air conditioning. There's a washer, a dryer. There's a dishwasher, right? There's a light dimmer. right? She has her own room, right? There's an upstairs, there's a downstairs. These things, like it just warms my heart every time I'm able to provide that kind of dream. You know,
Yes.
I even
Yes.
remember the one kid's like, "Mom, we finally got our dream home, right?"
I
And
love it.
so those types of things like make it all worthwhile
Mhm.
because it ain't easy. I mean, there's so much opposition to providing affordable housing, a ton of opposition. This term called NIMBYism, not NIMBY, not my backyard. People don't want affordable housing in their neighborhood, right?
Yeah.
Because it's going to bring them those people, right? It's going to my property values are going to decline. The crime is going to increase. Our schools are going to get overcrowded. The roads are going to all the things that don't happen,
Mhm.
right?
Absolutely.
It's
Absolutely.
the underlying thing that they're not saying is we don't want those people color in our neighborhood. I mean, that's just I'm gonna cut it
Exactly.
real
Yeah.
for you, right? And last story I'll share with you is that we had a successful development, and the development I'm talking about in terms of ringing the doorbell is the one I'm referencing now. It's about 60 unit development. We had the ability to take it to 90, but there was a lot of opposition from the community because of the density. They thought it was too many units, right? So they wanted to cut our density down. But the planning process, the community input process, going through city hall, going through the town hall meetings, going through all the permitting process. We went to a town hall. I actually didn't attend. I was traveling that day, but my staff attended that. um, and the vitriol that was coming from the audience participation, the hatefulness, if you in the pictures that were taken, all you had to do was turn them into black and white, and you couldn't
Mm.
tell if that was from the 1950s or that was
Wow.
from 2015.
Mm.
I mean, literally,
That
the
bad.
level of hate and
Yeah.
opposition to this housing development was,
Mm.
again, it's not easy. It's not easy, but I can tell you this, that everything that they thought would happen, property values go down, it actually the exact opposite. The product
Yes.
that we put in place improved their values. The product that we put
Yes.
in place improved their values.
That's what I
Um,
love.
the crime going up. Well, we have geopolicing in the city of Rockford, so there's a variety of different police stations throughout the city. There's a police station literally right across the street, so
Hmm.
we don't tolerate any nonsense from that. We
Sure.
strictly enforce lease violations. So if someone's in the
Mhm.
property that shouldn't be there, baby daddy ain't on the lease or
Yeah.
whatever, or whoever, causing problems,
Yes.
no, we're not doing that, right? So
Mm.
very very strict enforcement of leases, um, and we have neighborhood events like we'll have like the neighborhood cookout, we'll have neighborhood mixer or something like that. And now all these neighbors, maybe some that showed up with all that vitriol, are now friends with the
There you
new
go.
neighbors that are in the neighborhood. So and we found that happen everywhere. I mean, I've seen it in
Yeah.
Little Rock, I've seen it in San Diego, I've seen it in Chicago. That all of the preconceived notions, stereotypes that you perceive will happen when someone different comes into your neighborhood,
Hmm.
right? Um, they don't always manifest, and there's, but that's a long road. That's a long
Yeah.
road, and
Absolutely.
when you're taking that journey, it's easy to get discouraged and say, you know what, I don't want to do this. This is too
Yeah.
much. I mean, why am I doing this? I mean, I could
Hmm.
go do something easier, right? I can go do something that doesn't require so much angst or heavy lift to get done.
Sure.
Um, but that's just that Marine in me. I take on hard assignments.
Yes. Yes, you do. Well, I know that the two Dr. Michaels had a question for you. They unmuted and then muted again, so I didn't want to leave without them asking their questions.
Mine wasn't the question. I just basically wanted
Comments.
that's fantastic presentation, Jerry. So proud of you, man. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you.
Son claim on him for the taping that's going out here. Fantastic.
Well, for those who don't know, I mean, the Loves are my adopted family. So we have been through the thick and thin of it together for 15 plus years. And so I attribute my continued theological training and direction from the Loves here on this phone call.
Amen.
Bless you.
All right, the other Dr. Love.
I just want to say thank you too. This has really been fantastic, Jerry. We really do appreciate you and your time. All this information.
I appreciate you, sir. We definitely have to put something in the calendar. I know you're a busy man. I know you. I mean, you're on private jets now. Did I understand it? You got private. No, I appreciate you guys. I really do.
I have Gloria, Amy, and Dee. Do you have any comments or questions? Let's see.
No, thank you for being with us today. I have learned a lot, and I've also heard a lot about the housing authority and how it has been in the past. I lived in Rockford for 30 years, and I've seen a lot of transition has taken place. I've also had noticed pockets in the community that have gotten worse over time. And yeah, there have been some discrepancies with, my city and neighborhood and things. But the one that you spoke about with the like the metro or the police department, isn't that the one up on North Town? And they had those really nice homes there right across it used to be a post office, a North Town Road.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the real nice one. They had actually had some kind of a block party that year they opened up. It was really nice. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's the development I'm talking about. It was the old post office that remained empty and then was converted into a substation. And again, I mean, there's the police are, again, that's the important thing. We knew that going in was that, we don't need police responding to situations, right? And coming from downtown, going 80 miles per hour, responding to situations. We want them part of the neighborhood. We want them to know who the kids are, who the families are, right? We don't want kids or people who see those officers to run or be scared or be fearful. Some of these police officers, they've got a basketball hoop there on the site. They play basketball with some of the kids. That's, there's so many different ways that, it's like eating an elephant. You got to just eat it piece by piece, but you can't eat it all at one time. But you got to start, right? You got to make a start. And we just knew that, in addition to it's real talk, alleviating fears of the current residents, hey, there's all the foolishness you think that's going to go on here. No, that's not what we're doing here. So, and we went above and beyond to make sure that, hey, this got to work. One, and two, we have to make sure that we don't give reasons to the community to be opposed to future developments. So, the Rockford Hills Development Corporation will be doing some more development as well, not just this community center, but also some more affordable housing type of developments.
Yes, thank you. Any more comments? Floor? I'm messing with her.
Yeah, she's probably.
Yeah,
that's my CEO right there. For those who don't know, so, she keeps it all together, which allows me to do everything that I do. So, so thank you, sweetheart, for that.
Thank you for putting all this together. It was an amazing information, and oh my God, it's so amazing to hear you. Like talking about you, about everything. I know I have to be here waiting for you all the time, but it's worth it.
Oh, what a tribute. Oh my goodness.
That's real talk. When she goes, again, and we all know this, we're married on this. You can't do what you do if you don't have the support from home. So,
Amen.
And
Amen.
adding to that too, I'm a realtor, so we in this house we speak and we sleep and we eat real estate.
Yeah, she got infected, right? We've been together 10 plus years now, so she got it honestly.
That's awesome.
Well, guys, I'm gonna drop. I got to
Right.
get another call, but I appreciate this. I mean, if anyone has any questions, follow-up questions, I mean, Karen, if you want to leave my contact information, feel free to do that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I know everybody on this call.
Hopefully, we can do this again in the future.
God bless.
I'm gonna say
Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you.
God bless you.
for building people up, not just in the communities, but just, you know, in everything, right?
Exactly. Thank you
His
so much.
gifting looks good on him.
I know.
Good night, everyone.
Have a good night.